Hollywood superstar Robert Redford has captured audiences with his skill and personality. A touching narrative of personal grief and perseverance underpins his career and memorable performances. The tragic death of his two boys, Scott and James, changed Redford's life and made him an actor few could fathom. James, a filmmaker and campaigner, died of illness in recent years, while Scott, his firstborn, died of SIDS at a few months old. Redford was forever changed by these terrible occurrences, which inspired him to fight for environmental and social problems. The Sundance Institute has helped many independent filmmakers, and Redford persevered to build a name for himself despite these personal disasters. His legacy shows how one may use personal suffering to have a constructive impact on and off screen. We'll explore Robert Redford's life and discover lesser-known facts about him. Early years. Redford, who founded the Sundance Film Festival in Utah, where he resides, has long looked to provide a sophisticated alternative to the most conventional aspects of Hollywood. But in reality, he was born in Santa Monica. Redford was born on August 18, 1936, to parents Charles Robert Redford Sr. and Martha W. Hart. Robert was the only child of his milkman father, who later became an accountant for an oil firm. Robert's mother passed away in 1955, but his father continued to live with her and had a son called William, who became Robert's stepbrother. Polio. If you have been following Redford's directing career carefully, you may have seen Cathedrals of Culture, a program he appeared in an episode of in 2014. He highlighted San Diego's Salk Institute for Biological Studies in the broadcast. Redford explained his decision to spotlight it to The Express, a publication, even though it would seem unusual. The polio vaccine was developed by Jonas Salk, most known for founding the Salk Institute. This is what connects Redford to Salk's body of work. Despite Redford's constant portrayal as being powerful and athletic, he had polio as a child. Fortunately, he only had minor symptoms and recovered without any long-term issues. Nonetheless, the event affected him, and he now supports efforts to end the illness. Trouble in school. There's no denying Robert Redford's creative bent and intelligence, but his academic performance could have been better. He claims he always thought about other things and had a wandering mind. "I never did well in school. That was my whole life. My thoughts had completely vanished. I sketched beneath the desk. I sketched images," he told Rolling Stone in 1980. "My education was going to happen when I got out in the world and engaged with other cultures, other places, other languages, and had the adventure of exploration," Redford went on. "I wasn't learning the way I was supposed to learn," he said, "and I felt that's my education." Crimes and misdemeanors. In addition to being a subpar student, Redford behaved differently than a model citizen in his early years. He violated the law a couple of times. Rest assured, he has committed no wrongdoings in the past and nothing particularly horrible. In an interview from 1980, he acknowledged acting disrespectfully. He had broken into people's homes as a teenager, used their swimming pools, and taken hubcaps off of automobiles. He was detained a few times for his little adolescent rebellions, but never went to jail. Higher education. Redford always disliked school, yet he still went to college. He was awarded a sports scholarship to the University of Colorado. He played for the baseball team and joined Kappa Sigma to participate in fraternity life. His time at college was far from ideal, however. Redford's academic career was hampered by his alcoholism, which he acquired after his mother died. He ultimately had to leave school since he could not maintain his scholarship. On the plus side, however, the institution awarded him an honorary degree in 1987, so everything was all okay. Meeting his match. Meeting Lola von Wagenen during Redford's undergraduate years was a benefit. The two fell in love right away, and she was also a University of Colorado student. When Redford left, however, their friendship was put to the test. Redford chose to take a year off from school and traveled around Europe. During that period, he studied painting in Paris and resided in France, Spain, and Italy. After a year apart, his and Lola's love remained unwavering, and they resumed their relationship when he returned. Tying the knot. Once reunited, the two decided to tie the knot. Since Robert Redford had not completed college and did not seem to have a bright future, Lola Van Wagenen's parents found it difficult to support the marriage while Redford was still relatively unknown. However, the couple decided not to ask for permission, and in 1958, they fled to Vegas to have a covert wedding. But they did not intend to keep their secret bottled up for long. 5 weeks later, they decided to inform everyone. They summoned their close friends and family, had another marriage ceremony, and kept nothing hidden this time. Jane dismissing him. Jane Fonda and Redford started working together in 1960 and have since co-directed 4 movies. Given their long-standing intimate connection, it's not shocking that Fonda is aware of Robert's darkest secrets. At the 2023 Cannes Film Festival, Fonda disclosed that Robert did not like to kiss, adding, "He just had an issue with women." She said, "He was always in a bad mood, and I always thought it was my fault." However, Fonda shared about their passionate couple scenes, saying, "I live for sex scenes with him." Fonda was quickly reassured that it wasn't her fault. A growing family. The Redfords were soon parents, as Lola gave birth to Scott in 1959, followed by their first daughter, Shauna, in 1960, their second son, James, in 1962, and their fourth and last child, Amy, in 1970. Although Robert and Lola raised wonderful children, the family suffered a shocking loss when Scott, at the age of 2.5 months, passed away from sudden infant death syndrome, a tragic echo of what Martha and Charles Redford had to endure when they lost their twin girls before Robert was born. James' health issues. The death of their first son, Scott, was not the only tragedy of health the couple had to deal with when it came to their children. Only 3 years after Scott had died, their son James was born prematurely by 7 weeks and suffered from a respiratory ailment that was almost fatal. After surviving that, he later developed ulcerative colitis as a teen, which necessitated not only the removal of his colon, but 2 liver transplants before he was even 30 years old. It was thought to be over, but his liver disease returned in 2018, and cancer was discovered a year later while he was waiting for another liver transplant. Unfortunately, James died at age 58 on January 16, 2020. James was a successful writer and producer in his own right, having produced, among others, the HBO documentary film Man vs. Ford in 2009. He also founded the James Redford Institute for Transplant Awareness to educate the public about organ donations. At 85, Robert Redford spoke about the loss of his sons. "We were heartbroken. They were adored by many and had a lovely, meaningful existence." Love lost, found. Though they spent almost 30 years together, Robert and Lola could not keep their marriage going, and in 1985, they decided to call it quits. While every marriage has its ups and downs, Redford says that he and his wife never truly moved on from the death of their son, Scott. "It was really hard," he said in a heartfelt interview. "We were very young, we didn't know about SIDS, so the only thing you think is that you've done something wrong. As a parent, you tend to blame yourself. That creates a scar that probably never completely heals." Redford would, however, fall in love once more when he started dating Sybil Zaggers. The two were married in 2009, but had been living together since the 90s. Primary roles. Redford began acting at a young age and landed his first Broadway role in his early 20s. He received excellent training in theater, but the demands of the theater were difficult for a young family. So, after the birth of his second child, he decided to switch to television to be home earlier rather than spend nights away from his wife and children. Redford's move to television was fortunate in that he guest starred on many of the major shows of the era, including The Twilight Zone, Maverick, Perry Mason, and many others. All work, no pay. Redford's acting career kept him occupied and ensured that his face would always be on TV. But it did not always translate into a paycheck. When he was offered a $75 payment for his first-ever television appearance on a game show, the producers gave him an expensive fishing pole instead of paying him. Little did Redford know that this would set up his future film, A River Runs Through It. At the time, all that was on his mind was how to support his family, and perhaps he could go fishing. Up in mountains. In his early years, Redford struggled financially, but was fearless in taking calculated risks. He used $500 that he had saved and bought 2 acres in Utah, a move that would prove wise over time. As the money came in, he continued to buy more and more land, eventually accumulating 5,000 acres. On this land, he founded the Sundance Institute in 1978 and purchased Temp Haven, a ski resort in the region that he named Sundance, from which he derived the name Sundance Film Festival. Although he started the festival there, it eventually had to move to Park City due to its enormous success. In motion pictures. Redford's theater and television days are difficult to imagine because we all know him from his film work. His big screen debut came in 1962 when he played Private Roy Loomis in War Hunt, a Korean War drama that was a huge critical hit and signaled the beginning of an illustrious film career. However, years would pass before Redford's career truly took off. Redford was regarded as one of the most attractive actors of his generation, but that did not always work in his favor. In fact, there were occasions when his good looks cost him roles. Mother for inspiration. Redford claimed that he has a great regard for women and asked, "Why do I feel this strong connection to women? Who else can one thank for his good looks other than his mother?" Redford had paid homage to his late mother, Martha, and characterized her as his devoted supporter. "I think it probably has to do with my mom," he said. Redford had a difficult existence, but never lost sight of his mother. It's obvious that he still has feelings for her, and he feels as if he didn't say all he wanted to. "I regret that she passed away before I could thank her." Not right look. Mike Nichols, The Graduate, is among the most iconic movies of the 1960s. The fate of Dustin Hoffman's iconic movie almost went differently when Robert Redford was considered for the Benjamin Braddock part. Redford would have performed well, but Nichols did not think he was the proper choice. Given that the man in the screenplay was a virgin who struggled to win girls over, Nichols believed an actor with such conventional good looks would not fit the role in the same way. Hoffman was probably not too angry about being seen as less conventionally attractive, especially since he received an Oscar nomination for the play. Being considered serious. One of the things that has been sort of weird is to see yourself characterized as somebody who looks well, that has glamorous looks or is appealing physically, Redford said in an interview about the dilemma of wanting to be taken seriously as an actor while also being well-liked for his appearance. "That's good, and I have no complaints." Redford said it was unfortunate that sometimes people paid more attention to his appearance than his acting prowess, saying, "The notion is that you're not so much of an actor, you're just somebody that looks well." However, what he saw happening over time was that my looks were getting attention. I always felt proud of my part, so it was difficult for me. That character would be me. Manipulator. No, Robert Redford did not pursue women. He was adored by many and considered the golden kid of Hollywood. His female co-stars, in particular, fell in love with him one after the other. Take Jane Fonda, for instance. While making Our Souls at Night, Fonda discussed her bed scenes with Redford on The Ellen DeGeneres Show. On another occasion, she joked, "I live for sex scenes with Redford." There is eventually a love scene. I'm happy with the love scene. I'm unhappy because it was so short. Another role lost. While not landing The Graduate may seem like the largest career-ending setback, Redford had another, even worse one waiting for him. By now, Redford was a hot commodity in Hollywood, having found success with his star appearance in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. The creators of The Godfather wanted him to portray Michael Corleone, and everyone wanted to cast him. Sadly for Redford, Francis Ford Coppola was more interested in Al Pacino than the blonde, attractive lad who played a Sicilian mafia. Producer Robert Evans and director Francis Coppola battled it out, but Pacino ultimately won and created history with his interpretation. Fits the part. Redford may have lost certain roles due to his excessive good looks, but he also fits in many other roles well. With his powerful, straight features, Redford was a superb choice to portray a CIA operative in the 1975 picture 3 Days of the Condor. But there was one time in the movie when his look did not quite work. In the movie, he must abduct a lady, portrayed by Faye Dunaway. Dunaway was having trouble with their scenes together, even though he was threatening her and holding her in his apartment. Sydney Pollack, who was directing, had to stand in for Redford for Dunaway to give a convincing performance, and with a less attractive man playing opposite her, she played the part perfectly. Dunaway told Pollack, "The idea of being kidnapped and ravished by Robert Redford was anything but frightening." Paul Newman's assistants. The Sundance Kid is the character Robert Redford will always be associated with. The movie was a huge hit for both of them, along with Paul Newman, and they became close friends for over 40 years until Newman's death. Both in real life and on film, Newman was a great sidekick, and Redford's casting would not have occurred if Newman hadn't pushed for Redford to be cast. "The studio did not want me," said Redford. "They made every effort to block me from appearing in the movie. I believe that Paul Newman, William Goldman, the writer, and George Roy Hill, the director, stood up for me against the studio," Redford said, referring to 20th Century Fox. "I always remembered Paul telling the studio, 'I'll only be in the film with Redford,' when I first met him. He was very generous." Reunited. Many were eager to see Newman and Redford together again on screen after the success of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. They returned with director George Roy Hill for the 1973 movie The Sting. It was imperative to surpass Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and they succeeded in many ways. In addition to being a major box office hit, the movie took home 7 Oscars, including Best Picture. The movie was so well liked that it may have seemed to be seen by everyone. Everyone except Robert Redford didn't get around to watching it until 2004. He delayed seeing it partly because he was worried that his character would have to move around a lot, and he wouldn't have much acting time. When he was given a sculpture of the Roadrunner by Looney Tunes after the movie's production, it was evident that he was concerned. Redford and Streisand. Among the many wonderful co-stars Redford has worked with, The Way We Were with Barbra Streisand stands out as one of his greatest. The movie was another big smash, turning into one of the most watched love dramas of the 1970s, winning an Oscar for Best Original Dramatic Score and having a famous theme song. It was the third movie that Sydney Pollack directed that featured Redford, and there were 4 more nominations, including one for Best Actress for Streisand. There would be many more, including 3 Days of the Condor. Arthur Lorenz authored the book and the movie based on his own experiences. Meeting with Nixon. The character of Bob Woodward in All the President's Men is another of Redford's most well-known portrayals. He reunited with filmmaker Sydney Pollack for the movie, sharing the screen alongside Dustin Hoffman this time. Redford is a politically active liberal who watched the Watergate scandal closely. In addition to his enthusiasm for the subject matter, he invested a lot of time preparing for the part. For 3 weeks, he worked as an observer at the Washington Post, learning all the subtleties he would need for the role. Ironically, Redford had already met Nixon when the president gave him an athletic prize when he was only 13 years old, even though his persona contributed to the downfall of Nixon's administration. A worthwhile diversion. Even while All the President's Men was obviously about Watergate, the scandal influenced Redford's work on other movies. Redford became engrossed in the impeachment proceedings during the 1973 shooting of The Great Gatsby. He may have interfered with his job since he watched the news anytime he had the opportunity. Despite much anticipation, reactions to Mia Farrow's portrayal of Daisy Buchanan against Redford's Jay Gatsby were not unanimous. Farrow offered a view as to why, claiming that Redford's obsession with Watergate prevented them from having a good relationship. A lucrative day. Redford may not have had an easy time making money in his early career, but after he rose to fame, he made up for it. In contrast to his typical leading parts, he was a large ensemble member in the 1977 World War II epic A Bridge Too Far, where he co-starred alongside Richard Attenborough. Even though he was only in the movie for 2 weeks, he was paid $2 million. Despite a cast featuring Sean Connery, Laurence Olivier, James Caan, and Michael Caine, the movie was a financial and critical flop. That kind of payoff, however, makes it doubtful that Redford is regretting his decision. A loving father. Sid Wells, a University of Colorado student and the boyfriend of Redford's daughter, Shauna, was shot in 1983 by 23-year-old Thane Smeka, who had just moved in as his roommate. The shooting happened the day before the rent payment was due, and Sid had been having problems getting Thane to pay. Shauna eventually dropped out of school over the tragedy, and Redford halted work on the sports movie he was starring in at the time, The Natural, so the whole family could attend Sid's burial. Having accent problems. Out of Africa was Redford and Sydney Pollack's sixth collaboration, and this time Meryl Streep was the show's star. The movie was an enormous smash, winning 7 Oscars, including Best Picture, and ranking among the top-grossing pictures of 1985. In the movie, Redford portrays English nobleman Dennis Finch Hatton, the lover of Danish Baroness Karen Blixen, who penned the autobiography that serves as its basis under a pen name. Sydney Pollack opted to make the character American, even though Redford intended to play an English accent because he believed that viewers would not be able to accept it. Ages Like Wine. The popular 1993 movie Indecent Proposal told the story of a billionaire, played by Robert Redford, who sees a woman, played by Demi Moore, lose their savings in Vegas and offers her and her husband $1 million to sleep with him. It also depicts the impact of this offer on the couple, who are having marital difficulties. For many viewers, the scenario raises an intriguing, and perhaps scandalous, what-if issue. But it's another instance in which Redford's good looks make a little difference. Even though he was getting close to 60 when the movie came out, he was still regarded as one of the world's most attractive men, which altered the dynamics. Encounter with Nixon. A few actors are as skilled at directing as Redford is at acting in dramatic roles. The Horse Whisperer, 1998, was the 6th movie he directed, and it allowed him to honor his passion for the natural world. He portrayed an animal trainer who is sent in to tend to the injured horse of a small girl. Though unknown then, the little girl would become just as well known as the man who helmed her in her breakout performance. Since then, Scarlett Johansson has advanced much, and she and Redford were able to reprise their acting roles in the same movie, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Come from Family. After beginning her career as an actress in TV series like Sex and the City and The Sopranos, Amy Redford, his daughter from his first marriage to Lola Van Wagenen, has followed in her father's footsteps as a director and inherited his good looks. The Guitar, Amy's first feature film, debuted at the 2008 Sundance Film Festival. I'm an actress in recovery. I was an actress on the stage for 20 years in New York, Amy said while speaking about her professional background. My heart lies in directing. Late career achievement. In the 2000s, Redford's star power started to wane a little bit, with few of his roles leaving the same lasting impression as they once did. However, he did make a somewhat successful return in the survival thriller All Is Lost, 2013, directed by J.C. Chandor, and starred him as a guy stranded at sea attempting to survive. With no other performers to lean on, Redford had to carry the movie alone, which made his performance difficult. But because there weren't many lines in the movie, and the screenplay was just 31 pages long, one aspect of shooting that was less difficult than normal would have been learning his lines. Redford had one of his most celebrated performances in the critically lauded low-budget picture, earning great reviews and seeing only limited box office success. Director, producer, stunt actor. Redford had several difficulties in All Is Lost because he had to act physically. Playing a left-handed character while being right-handed was one aspect of it. He also performed all of the stunts in the movie on his own, including an astonishing 9-foot leap, considering that the picture was shot when he was in his late 70s. Redford claims that during the filming, he suffered some physical harm, including being struck with a hose that damaged his hearing. Redford sometimes uses a stunt double, and he has had the same double since Butch Cassidy, with whom he is still in contact. Redford has always attempted to do many of his stunts, which infuriated Paul Newman during Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. The Marvel Universe. When Redford agreed to have a tiny part in Captain America: The Winter Soldier, it became his greatest box office blockbuster. Before this, he had not had a major hit in over 10 years. It was his first venture into the realm of current blockbuster filmmaking, which heavily relies on visual effects, and it was also a different sort of part and movie than he is accustomed to. The Avengers series is a product of high technology playing a major role in the new order of filmmaking, so I wanted to experience that. I just wanted to know what that was like, and I had the opportunity, so for me, it was like stepping into new territory to experience what it was like. Redford went on to describe it as a great learning experience. One of the reasons I did the movie was I wanted to experience this new form of filmmaking that's taken over, where you have to have cartoon characters brought to life through high technology. Congress Library. Up to 25 movies are chosen annually by the Library of Congress to be preserved because they are individually, culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. The National Film Registry was established to preserve cinematic history and guarantee the survival of beloved films for the next generations. Being chosen is an enormous honor, and Robert Redford has 3 chosen films: The Sting, All the President's Men, and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid are those movies. More of his work may likely be included in the future. Awards: Success, Failure. Robert Redford is one of history's most successful, well-liked, and successful actors. However, one area in which he has faltered has been winning accolades. He has particularly battled with the Oscars, the biggest prize in the film industry. He has only received 1 nomination in his acting career for his role in The Sting, which took home the Best Picture award that year. Even though he has had many excellent performances, he has never quite cut. In 2001, he received a Lifetime Achievement Oscar as if to atone for all of the rejection he endured. Behind the camera. Nevertheless, he has done better as a filmmaker. He was one of just 5 first-time directors to win Best Director for Ordinary People, which also won Best Picture. In 1994, he received a nomination for Best Picture for Quiz Show, for which he was also nominated for Best Director. Despite not being nominated for Best Picture, his earlier films as a director won prizes for other categories, with The Milagro Beanfield War taking home the Best Original Score prize. Superior accomplishment. Redford became the first person ever to direct a Best Picture winner and featured in another one when his film Ordinary People won Best Picture, joining Laurence Olivier in that distinction. Along with directing Ordinary Picture, Olivier also played in Rebecca, which won Best Picture, and directed Henry V and Hamlet, which both won Best Picture. Redford also acted in The Sting, which won Best Picture, and subsequently Out of Africa. In addition, Redford and Olivier share a few more things since they were both in A Bridge Too Far. The Oscars, meanwhile, were little in comparison to another honor Redford received. Redford became a member of a very rare club when President Obama awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2016. An actor's director. As a filmmaker, Redford has worked with well-known actors like Meryl Streep, James McAvoy, Brad Pitt, Will Smith, Matt Damon, Tom Cruise, and Shia LaBeouf. His ability to bring out the best in his performers is well known, and 4 of his roles have been nominated for Oscars, with Timothy Hutton's performance in Ordinary People taking home the trophy. Paul Scofield received a nomination for Quiz Show, while Mary Tyler Moore and Judge Hirsch received nominations for the same movie. Additionally, he created a positive work atmosphere for his stuntmen by encouraging them and ensuring they were paid in full, even while doing his own stunts. Supporting independent films. With the Sundance Film Festival serving as the premier platform for independent cinema, Redford has long advocated for independent cinema. A narrative by Ed Burns demonstrates how willing he is to help new filmmakers in need. Before his career took off for the Brothers McMullen, he required a distributor, his self-financed $28,000 debut as a writer, director, and actor. Nothing happened with the movie before Burns ran into Redford for Entertainment Tonight one day in the studio elevator. Then, Redford could view the movie thanks to a copy that Burns supplied him. Redford not only saw it and was enthralled with it, but also chose to screen it at Sundance. The movie caused quite a stir at the festival, taking home the top jury award, landing Fox distribution, and finally grossing over $10 million upon its theatrical debut. Redford and Newman. Few on-screen pairs are as famous as Paul Newman and Robert Redford, and lovers of their movies will be pleased to learn that the two also enjoyed an amazing friendship in real life. They first got together when filming Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and they later worked together again on The Sting. Sadly, a third project never materialized, though they discussed one before Newman passed away. Paul Newman's passing was lamented by many people, and Redford was deeply saddened by the death of his close friend. Redford said, "There comes a time when feelings transcend words," just before he passed away. A true buddy of mine is gone. His presence in this nation and my life has improved both. Good working relationships. Robert Redford understands the value of teamwork in the film industry, just like any other brilliant actor or filmmaker. He has developed several excellent partners with whom he has worked repeatedly. William Goldman, the renowned writer, is one of them. Goldman has had a fantastic career as a novelist, dramatist, and screenwriter. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid is among his most well-known writings. Since then, Redford has collaborated with Goldman on other projects, including The Hot Rock, The Great Waldo Pepper, All the President's Men, and A Bridge Too Far. Another actor-director. Redford's most notable partnerships have been with fellow actor-turned-director Sydney Pollack. Redford's first movie, War Hunt, introduced the two, and they have been close friends ever since. They share a personal and professional bond and have collaborated on some of their finest projects. Pollack's 7 films directing Redford have been box office and critically acclaimed successes. Some of the best runs of movies ever by a director and actor combo include This Property is Condemned, Jeremiah Johnson, The Way We Were, 3 Days of the Condor, The Electric Horseman, Out of Africa, and Havana. Nature lover. Redford has long been well known for the issues he champions. Apart from assisting others and encouraging independent art, he has also dedicated his life to protecting the environment. His environmental advocacy was much ahead of its time. In the 1970s, he worked to stop the construction of a power plant in Utah. In the 1970s, he worked on the Clean Water and Air Acts and founded the Institute for Resource Management. In 1989, he also hosted the Sundance Symposium on Global Climate Change. In addition, he serves as a trustee for the environmental advocacy organization Natural Resources Defense Council. A shifting topography. Redford's advocacy stems partly from his observation of environmental changes around him, which led him to look for a location with more natural beauty than his childhood home. Redford said, "I went to college to escape Los Angeles. I chose to attend college in Colorado because of the mountains there, and at that point in my life, I knew that nature would play a significant role in my life. I loved Los Angeles as a child, right after World War II," the speaker said. There were plenty of green areas. After the conflict was over, Redford said, Los Angeles felt like it was being pushed into the sea all of a sudden, and the city had no land use plan. Suddenly, I was surrounded by pollution, roads, and skyscrapers. Wanted to go. I moved to the Sierras and the Highlands, where I worked in Yosemite National Park and developed a deep passion for the natural world. Best selections. Redford has nearly 50 years of film experience, so it would be difficult for anybody to choose a favorite from his many iconic productions. Redford had an intriguing response when asked about his favorite performance. Redford claims that his best work is Jeremiah Johnson, the Sydney Pollack Western filmed in Utah. Regarding his acting, He claims that his performance in The Sting was his greatest. Regarding other people's movies, he has a favorite that is better than the others: John Huston's The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. Retirement. After starring in his last movie, The Old Man and the Gun, in 2018, Redford announced his retirement. Nevertheless, he continued to make cameos in movies, including a brief cameo in Avengers: Endgame and the Watchmen television series. However, he no longer works in the film business, and he now finds tremendous solace in the vast outdoors and spending time with his grandkids. He has earned his retirement after 6 decades of arduous effort as an actor, director, and producer, creating many memorable performances and movies. Even if he is no longer producing movies, people will always enjoy seeing his timeless performances.
If you've watched the video till here, that means you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notifications bell icon